Definitely. Perfect word for it. And it's empowering yourself and others, to be
Mhm.
who they're supposed to be. You can mentor, but you can't solve their problems, or you can't help them. You're not helping them if you're solving every problem.
That's true. Yes, I was thinking about it. Yes, self-care means also to show up as your best self, I would say. Welcome to Inspired Choice today. I'm your host, Caroline Biesalski, here to bring you authentic stories, surprising lessons, and powerful takeaways to fuel your journey in business and life. In each episode, I'll take you from one inspiring guest to the next, blending their experiences with my expertise to uncover practical strategies you can use right away. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, stay tuned for insights and actionable tips that make a difference. And stick around until the end for a special freebie just for our listeners. Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is author Rhonda. But of course, she has another name, Parker Taylor. And I'm so happy you are here. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast. And how are you doing today?
Oh, I appreciate you having me. And as you were introducing me, I thought, isn't that amazing that not only are we on the Inspired Choice podcast, but we're also being able to do an international conversation about what that means to us and what that means to not only just women, but men, young people, old people, wherever we are in our season. And then you have this beautiful background that's just inspiring. And I
Oh,
thought, this is meant because as we continually learn from each other, we only can get better.
thank you so much. And the only requirement is to be open-minded, right?
Right, right. And I think that that's something that, so many times we forget that. And that's part of our emotional well being. And anybody that's done studies on emotional intelligence, one of the 21 characteristics is being open. For you to be successful in life, you have to be open. And that means not only are you open to your own emotions and feelings, but you can also share and listen to others and be able to have that clear vision of what's important in the world. And I think that when we do that, oh my goodness, we can only get better, and we can only solve problems rather than stuff them. And especially when it's our own problems.
Mhm. Sure. So you are an American writer, entrepreneur, and academic researcher. And my first question to you is, how did your early struggles with reading and writing shape your journey as an author, and what motivated you to pursue writing despite these challenges?
Oh, I would love to tell people about that because so many people think that to be an author, you are automatically a good writer from the beginning. Well, I flunked kindergarten, so that tells you I was behind the learning curve at a very young age, and a lot of it had to do with my anxiety, my ADHD, my ability to understand. I loved books though, and so it was like it took a mentor to realize, wait a minute, she has some gifts here, but it was more about the storytelling. And then I came from an entrepreneurial family, so education was not the focus. It was more on um, being productive, being a good worker, thinking outside the box. So I had to kind of pull all that together. And had it not been for that mentor, I probably would never have gone to college. And my background is in business because of my entrepreneurial background. So I have a doctorate in business. And then as I'm doing it, I realized I still have this weakness in me, which was writing. But I love to tell stories. So I did this huge proposal for an organization that I was working for. And they ended up saving millions of dollars by implementing it. And then my boss pulled me in and said, "You realize you put the wrong insurer and so I had a typo. I had, a word that I didn't see when I had edited the proposal. I was humiliated. And it was at that point that I realized you're better than this. You need to take your weakness and make it a strength. You need to turn it around. You need to acknowledge that you not only are a leader in your organization, but you're leading by example. And so I was like, okay, I really want to write, and I love to read, and fiction was my genre, but I love to make a difference in people. So I kind of pulled them all together and created Crossroads. It's a fiction novel. It's suspense, but it's all about people that are all out of life balance. And when I say life balance, I'm not just talking about work life balance, but it's also emotional out of balance, or um, socially connected, like, life balance, where where you're not putting energy in all of your dimensions of life. And that's what makes them um, prey to others, because when you're out of balance, other people can exploit your weaknesses, and that's what happens. And so even though she's a high powered executive in the Indianapolis area and works in finance, she gets called to jury duty, and she realizes she is completely off the journey she was supposed to be in. So I found that storytelling is a way that I can connect with people, not only people that I lead, but then I can also make them open, which was one of our part of our first part of our conversation, to exploring some of their weaknesses. And then I have a life journey, life balance journey workbook that people can pull up and say, okay, where do I need to improve my life to fulfill happiness?
Yes, you mentioned leading by example, and I understand. So when you show this, whether by yourself or the book you write, of course, then people take this and they allow themselves to change. How about that? And to succeed in the end.
Yeah, and that change can be anything. For me, I kind of play a game of uncle. Now, I don't know if you know what the game of uncle is, but when we're children, you interlace your hands and another person's hands, and then you bend them until it hurts, and then when someone finally gives up and says uncle, then you let go and they're the winner. And with life, I found like sometimes I was playing uncle. I was waiting to the last minute to make the changes that I needed to make. A perfect example is I'm very good at building people, but when I build them, I have a tendency not to let them fly afterwards. I keep them in my cocoon. I want to keep on working with it, but I have to learn to say no at some point and let them fly. Or when I changed from academics to consulting, I realized I had to nurture myself because I had a huge loss in my life. And so sometimes change occurs when we're helping others, and sometimes it's when we need to help ourselves.
It's self-care.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. Perfect word for it. And it's empowering yourself and others, to be who they're supposed to be. You can mentor, but you can't solve their problems, or you can't help them. You're not helping them if you're solving every problem.
That's true. Yes, I was thinking about it. Yes, self-care means also to show up as your best self, I would say. And if you are not feeling good and then you meet with people, then it's probably not always the best idea. I found that out last August. No, I made a decision. So I became aware of that. What does it mean, self-care? And then, okay, I can say no, and it's for the best of everyone, because I would not be in the best shape or the best in my best self clothes, so to say. Okay, Crossroads took 20 years from writing to publication. What kept you determined throughout that process, and how did you finally bring your vision to life?
So the thing about the publishing industry is you have three ways that you can publish. One is the traditional route and get a publisher, which is what I did at the beginning. Did the query love letter and everything, and finally found a publisher. And it took us 2 years to get it to where it was ready to publish, and then they backed out. So then, disillusioned, busy, life hits. I had the printed copy on my desk, and I kept on saying, I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it. And what ended up happening is I went to get off the disk that it was on another document, and that document had been corrupted. And then I panicked, and I had these visions of me having to type all 300 pages and re-edit it and go through the whole process over. I was able to save it. And I was talking to my sister, who's older than me and sometimes wiser. And she said, why aren't you the same question, why aren't you doing anything with it? And I said, I don't know, life's been busy, and we were taking care of dad and help, all the things that you do in life. And and she said, no, that's not it, because if it was a client, it would be done already.
Yes, that's true.
And then I was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just busy. The right time will come. And she said, no, you're afraid. You're afraid. You don't want to make yourself vulnerable. And in that moment, of course, you're going to argue with your sibling and say that, that they don't know what they're talking about. But, siblings do know sometimes, and they know you. And as I got off the phone, I'm like, listen, Rhonda, I had to have that come to Jesus meeting, as they say in the Christian faith, right? Where you have to say, what is really holding you back? And she was right. And it was the being overwhelmed with going through the process again. So I started looking for what would be best for me. And was I ready to go 2 more years on the traditional publishing route? And, I'm like, oh, that's a long time. I'm getting old. By then, I'm going to be retirement age, if I get it published. And so I started looking at the other options, which is self-published or what they call a blended matrix, which you find a publisher. It's a publisher, but they help you with the marketing and they help you get things going. And since I was an entrepreneur doing my own work, I was like, when am I going to have time to figure out how to do a barcode or this? So I sent them a letter, sent them a copy of my book, and started conversations with them. And they accepted me, and they said, these are the steps we think that will be best for your book. That organization is called Mindster Media. And they're well known, at least in the Americas. I'm not sure if they are worldwide at this point. And then as I was going through the process of getting everything set up with them, they said, you really need to submit this letter to Merrill Hemingway, a letter asking her to endorse it. And I'm like, why would Merrill Hemingway? Now, your younger audience would say, who's that? But Merrill Hemingway is a big deal for people that are, that grew up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, because, she was, a Academy Award winning actress. And, her grandfather is Ernest Hemingway, the great writer. And I'm like, why would she care? And their answer to me was, because this book is her story. This is a story of a workaholic woman that wanted to have her excellence, but is out of balance, and people exploit that. And she's all about mental health, life balance, and self-care. Part of the reason is she knows the outcomes of not doing that. Every one of the people in her family had life balance issues also. So she has learned to build it into her makeup. And so I was like, wow, that's a big step for a person from Indiana, a small town What, you know, so I'm like, but it's not, you guys haven't finished looking at it and editing it. And then she's like, no, they like it in the raw. They like to see it, to see what your actual skills are. So that's what she's going to want to do. And so I wrote the letter. It took me about a week, you know, weekend over the weekend to do it, and got the package all together and sent the book to her. And it took a couple of weeks for her to respond. But then when she responded, she created a YouTube video. And that YouTube video is called Meryl Hemingway Praises Rhonda Parker Taylor's Crossroads. And she talked about her experience of reading it. And I'm telling you, from a person that struggled all her life with writing, it gave me chills to find. And we all want that moment. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's a coffee shop you want to open, or you want to be the best mother or father, or whatever it is, and you finally see them graduate, whatever it is that you've put your heart into, you want that feeling of accomplishment, especially when you've created something that you've a change in your whole outlook, and adapting, you know, a different style, you know, going from a business to creativity. And in that YouTube video, at the end, she talked about we all come to a crossroads in our lives where we have to make a decision, what's good and bad for us. And then at some point, we have to realize that even chocolate has an expiration date. And that's what change is all about. As we're inspired to make choices, we can make the wrong choice or the right choice. And that's, you know, in Crossroads, there's a young man in the book that makes the wrong choice, and he ends up getting in a car with a friend that he grew up all his life. Everybody told him to quit dealing with him, and that young man murders someone. And he's now and he has big decisions now. Does he turn state, as they would say in the legal system, and tell him what he knows? Or does he hold that secret and end up with the same charges? So we all have crossroads. They may not be as big as Billy Knuckles had to do, but it could be, you know, do we change careers? Do we learn to love being home more than being out in the world that's sometimes unsafe? And making those changes, do we decide to cook rather than eating the fast food all the time so that we have a healthier lifestyle? So we have these decisions we make every day as we're inspired to recognize what we need to do for self for progress. So your podcast, you know, for those that are listening for the first time, I hope you listen to every single one of them, because as you do it, you need to share the inspirations of what a solid change can be for somebody. And it doesn't matter if it's for you, me, or anybody else, because when you're taking care of self and others, only good things can happen.
That's so true, and thank you for sharing. Now I'm speechless, but I'm not. So first of all, yeah, I love that this is what the podcast is about, to inspire people. And I always say everyone is inspiring. Everyone has a story to tell and to inspire other people, even though it's only one person. And I love also the title of your book, Crossroads, and how you combined it with decision making. Now too, we always have the choice. Then you mentioned the young man in the book, you know, and I thought your academic background and in economics, you said, that reminds me of game theory. There is this lemma thing, this game theory, whatever. I love that so much. And he has to make the choice. You explained it so beautifully. Now I would love to have a look in your book. Of course, you can find it. I put it on the Amazon list I created for all the guests of my podcast. There it is, a suspense novel, and I love the cover, of course. And I have another question, and thank you so much for mentioning. Yes, I also love my podcast and all the beautiful guests like you. And of course, the story of the granddaughter, was it, of the great Ernest Hemingway. He's an inspiration. And I love the books and whatever it is since a young age. So my
Yeah,
next.
The Old Man in the
Yes,
Sea. We
yes.
all had to read it, didn't we? The Old Man in the Sea and
Oh, yes.
everything, And I think that the main point and the most inspirational part of it is when you embrace the change. My sister called it out on me right there. I was afraid to change. I was afraid to rediscover my sense of identity and probably what I was intended to be. You know, as much as I love the coaching and everything else, the storytelling, the anecdotes, the insights that you can share with others, people are more open when it's in a fiction novel.
That's true. That's so true. Thank you for reminding me. We have to tell more stories to the world, of course. So, what lessons from your personal experiences, family mottos, and background in business management have influenced the storyline and characters in Crossroads?
Well, I would say the first one would be my father used to always say, because we were a large family, there was 5 of us children, and I was the second to the youngest girl. So you already know everything was micromanaged with me. And if I asked to do something, it was probably something my older siblings were doing. And the first thing that he would say is, do not compare yourself to others. And one of the, or three of the emotions explored in Crossroads is anger, fury, and envy. All three of those could be a reason for a crime. If someone gets angry, they could strike someone. If someone has fury, a lot of times fury is worse. They probably might stab someone because of that anger is at a higher level. And if it's envious, you know what happens? They lose their own sense of identity. In Proverbs, it says, anger is cruel, fury is overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? And what I found in my life is anytime I've compared myself, it's never been positive. It destroys me. It could be their house. It could be maybe someone's in a relationship and I wasn't in a relationship, or it could be that they have a better car, or maybe they have the career I thought I wanted. Anytime any of it, and today's social media really exploits it. You know, you end up taking away who you were intended to be. You were intended to be your authentic self. What I found is, when I was growing up, I used to think I wanted to live in these large mansions that I would see in this street in Indianapolis called Meridian Street. And that's where all the old money lived. Everybody that grew up with money. And there are these beautiful mansions that are centuries old. And I had to have a reflection when it came to buying my most recent house. First of all, I have a small family. My son was killed, in 2009. So it's just me and my husband. Why would I need that much home? And two, I'm kind of a penny pincher. I don't like someone to clean my home. So, and I like to do it myself so I can claim it as mine. So I really had to think about, why are you lusting over this large house? That's not who you are. So when I was looking, I was like, oh my God, I found this beautiful house. It was on 3 acres where I could still have all the wildlife I wanted, where I could have a park setting and walk through my own yard, not have to worry about the world. I have deer that come through. I have coyotes and fox and squirrels and rabbits and all these things that I can enjoy while I'm having my coffee. And I'm like, that's who I am. Some people, that's not who they are. You know, some people, it would scare them to walk out in their deer in their front yard. You know, it might, you know, prevent them from enjoying the outdoors. And so I had to really realize who I was and adapt myself to accepting me. And when I accepted me, I realized that the career changes that I was making was aligning. I was aligning myself with the choices that I was making from that point on. And I wish I would have talked to myself when I was younger, because some of the things that I did really didn't make sense to who I am, because I wasn't really being true to myself at all. And so surrounding myself with the right people and surrounding myself with the right environment is a big part of my change process.
Oh, that is so important. You know what you said. Yes, people that support you, of course, and choosing wisely what you said. Thank you so much. And I love the nature around you, of course, what you described where you live. Yeah. Thank you so much for our interview. I think the time is coming to an end. Tell us about your next projects and where people can find you, please, when they reach out to you after listening to this episode.
I would love to. First of all, you can reach out to me on my website, rhondaparkertaylor.com. Everything that I've done is I try to put it under my name so people can find me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. My next project, which should be out around Christmas, is, and I think you can't see the name of it, but it's called A Journey to Life Balance. It's a workbook approach. It takes the characters in Crossroads, and they're their case studies where you can actually see how it has impacted their lives. And then you can work through your own life balance and life satisfaction. And I'm really hoping that people will enjoy it. And then Crossroads is a series, so there'll be another fiction novel coming out that takes one of the smaller characters in Crossroads and makes them the main character, but all the characters get carried over, so it's like a friendship that you've created with them.
Oh, I love that idea. Thank you so much for sharing. And also the workbook approach you mentioned. Yes. Wow, what a great idea. Thank you so much for our interview. I'm blessed now, and I have to re-listen to our episode again, of course. There were so many nuggets.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I hope that all your listeners out there realize just how special they are and how their inspired choices today reflect in their future. Because when you really reflect and find the inspiration in self, there's nothing better that you can do than set the measurable goals to move forward. Like, share, and make sure you continue to follow this podcast, because it will help you in your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for our interview now.
Thank you. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye, and see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Inspired Choice today. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey of growth and transformation. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to stay connected and never miss an episode. And here's something special. Grab your free 20-minute breakthrough session with me. It's designed to help you kickstart or level up your business. Just check out the show notes for more. Until next time, keep making those inspired choices. See you in the next episode.